Hello and welcome to another episode of the BorderlineDad podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. If you don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and depression. I have two kids, one with autism, one with dyspraxia. In starting this whole podcast journey, my initial goal was to share my experiences, my stories, my thoughts and feelings on things, and make other people feel not so alone. I know what it's like to feel absolutely, completely, utterly alone and misunderstood, and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I never want any other person ever to feel that way. So my goal is to do the best that I can to make that happen, to make people feel not so alone. Eventually, after a few months, I moved into other areas of mental health. I talk about self-care, I talk about triggers, I talk about a lot of different things, talk about various disorders. Now, I want mental health to be taken as seriously as a black eye, as serious as a broken bone, a burst appendix, something like that. I also want to erase the stigma around asking for help, reaching out to a friend or a family member or a professional. I want to thank you all for being here today. Whether it's your first time or your 1,000,000th time, I really do appreciate you being here. It means more to me than I could ever accurately express. I hope you enjoy the episode. And again, thank you for being here. So I wanted to talk about self-care. Self-care is incredibly important, even more so now than ever before. Like I've said before, you cannot take care of others if you don't take care of yourself first. And between yesterday and today, we found out that my daughter's all-autism school is completely closed until further notice. And my son's school and my daughter's main school are going to be closed for a minimum of 3 weeks. Could be more, but it seems like for now that's just kind of the timeline. Is it 3 weeks? I went out shopping today, not to hoard or stockpile, but I had to do a general shopping anyway, and I stocked up on water bottles. I do like my water. It's not like plastic water bottles, like well, they are plastic, but it's this clear choice. It tastes like soda, but there's no sugar, sodium, fat, and any of that. It's supposed to be a healthier alternative. But anyway, self-care is incredibly important. And sometimes, depending on your situation, you may feel either afraid or you may feel guilty in wanting to partake in self-care, but I can tell you that you should not feel guilty. I have plenty of times, and kind of defeats the purpose because, for me, self-care is doing something for myself that makes me happy. Whether it's taking an extra long shower, whether it's going to bed a little early, whether it's going to the store and just, getting your favorite brand of coffee and really looking forward, looking forward to going home, brewing it, kind of like a treat. It could be anything that makes you happy. Play a video game, watch a couple of funny videos on YouTube, do whatever you want within reason, obviously, for example, for me, if I am able to do self-care, some system maintenance, my ideal self-care day before I continue, self-care doesn't necessarily have to be a whole day. I feel like it should be, but again, that's the whole point of self-care is not to worry about anything. So for me, Mondays typically are the days that my kids go to school. Obviously not for the next few weeks, but they go to school, and I can do chores. I could do laundry, shopping, whatever needs to be done, and I tend to get that all done first thing in the morning after they're all dropped off at school. I get it done, and usually if I'm good and I time everything, I can be done by like 11, So within 2.5 hours, I have everything done. So I have probably 3.5 hours before my son comes home after I get everything done. So that's when I tend to do some self-care. On the rare occasion that my kids spend the weekend at my parents', which again is a blessing. Not everybody is able to do that. So I recognize that is a privilege, and I really appreciate them for that. What I'll do is I'll brew my favorite cup of coffee. I got the K-Cups, put it in a pod, my favorite kind, and I'll actually stick my face real close to where it comes out, and just watching it come out, the steam, the smell of the coffee, just that you breathe in, breathe out. It's very relaxing. I love watching coffee brew. I used to work at a bakery, but I couldn't stick my face in the coffee there, but at home I watch it close, and I watch it come out, and it's so relaxing. And so I'll take my coffee, and I don't like a lot of cream or sugar, so I'll do like a teaspoon of sugar, occasionally a splash of milk, and I'll go in the living room, and I'll usually do a couple things. I'll either play video games the entire rest of the time that I have available, or I'll watch funny videos on YouTube, or I'll watch, I love prison documentaries. I love documentaries on the prison system, and I'm not talking about anything that fantasizes or sensationalizes what it's really like. I don't personally know what it's really like, but I know people that do, and it's definitely not fun, from what I've been told. So anyway, got my coffee, I pop on a prison documentary, or a funny video, or I pop in that game, and I just play. I don't think of anything else. I try to fully immerse myself in whatever I'm doing, in my self-care. I call it self-care time. And this is not every Monday. I try to make it every Monday, but sometimes I just get too busy, Mondays are typically the days where they're at school. So if the house doesn't need to be clean, dishes don't need to be done, I'll typically have more time. Self-care can be something that you do every day, maybe not necessarily just once a week. That's typically what I do, but you don't have to do it once a week. You can do it every day for an hour, or even 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Soak in the tub, take an extra long shower, like I said. Put on some headphones, listen to your favorite music, and just veg out. When I was living with my mother after my divorce for a short time, one of my favorite activities to do was when I didn't have the kids, or when they were sleeping, and I didn't have any responsibilities, my day off from work, everything was coming up free for me. I would go in my room, I would put on my headphones, and I'd blast whatever my heart felt like. And it was never I mean, and everyone's different, but for me, it was never one genre of music, like my country playlist or rap playlist or rock playlist or whatever you listen to. I have several custom-made playlists on my phone, and one of them is called my feel-good playlist. Another one's called Favorites 2.0, and so that's got a good mix of stuff. You know, it's got some Ozzy, it's got some Zebrahead, it's got some My Chemical Romance, it's got this guy singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, it's got some Bob Marley, it's got a mix of stuff. And, you know, I'll typically listen to that, just lay on my bed, stare at the ceiling, breathe in, breathe out, and just relax. And, I, at one point, downloaded a 45-minute sound clip from iTunes of, like, a thunderstorm. And I'll have that on repeat all night in my room. You know? There's just some small examples. If you are not in a position where you can get the kids out of the house, you know, if you are quarantined, if you, if your kids' schools are closed, you can find many, many ways to self-care, to kind of do system maintenance. You know, typically for me, when I'm on the road and I'm working, you can even do self-care while you're working, you know, because like I do food delivery, so I'm able to be my own boss, and I might go to a Dunkin's and get a coffee, or I've only ever done this twice, like in my entire life that I remember, but go to Starbucks and order the biggest, fanciest, highest caffeinated drink you can think of, and just, I don't know, splurge a little bit, you know? If you have the ability to get yourself that, $7 coffee or whatever it is, $10 coffee, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, and in my opinion, I certainly couldn't do that every single day, but like, let's say like once a month, an extra special treat yourself self-care day, get that coffee, eat that burger, belt your favorite song out loud in the car or at home. Do whatever makes you happy. It's kind of like a in diet references. Like, I'm on a diet right now, and I've been on a diet for a few months, and it's like a cheat day. I'm really good. Stick to my diet. I walk more. I'm a good boy. I do everything I'm supposed to. And then, you know what? I'll go for a slice of pizza. Maybe, maybe 2 slices, some bacon on it, or I'll go to Dunkin' Donuts and I'll get a coffee and a breakfast sandwich, which is, breakfast sandwiches from fast food places or Dunkin's or whatever. It's not really part of a diet. They're not good for you, but, the occasional, as long as you're not overdoing it, the occasional treat, the occasional bit of self-care. When I was younger, I didn't really think about self-care because I had kids young. I had kids at my first child at 20. So I was focused on that all the time, and I felt that if I played a game or I spent a few bucks on a coffee that could have been spent on, something for the baby, I felt horribly guilty. And it took me a long time to not only realize and understand how important self-care is, but it
you have to, I hate to say it, but you gotta have everything in order before you do that, Before you spend $10 on a super fancy Starbucks, make sure your rent is paid. Make sure your kids have food in their bellies. Make sure your bills are paid, make sure the house, make sure that everything that you gotta take care of is taken care of. And then you can kind of see it as, you know what, I earned this. I earned this $10 coffee. I earned the ability to just veg out for a bit, listen to my music. Kids are in bed, I got my headphones on, whatever your musical preference is, whatever makes you happy, Sometimes the music, it sounds weird to say, but the music that makes me happy sometimes is like angry, like screw you, F you music, it's like some hardcore F the world, but like that doesn't mean that's my mindset. Sometimes what my brain needs is a high form of self-care. I don't give a shit what kind of music you listen to. Listen to whatever you want. If you're at home and you've had a particularly rough week or a rough day, self-care can be every day. It could be once a week. It could be every other week. It could be as often as you want. I say this because everyone's different. I don't want to speak for everyone and say, oh, well, we should only do self-care once a day. Do it as often as you see fit, as long as everything else is done. And that's just my opinion. Hang out with a friend if you can, Hang out with someone you haven't talked to in years. Try reconnecting, I was thinking too, if you like to write or if you like to draw, do that. I know that there are adult coloring books or kids coloring books that obviously adults can buy. Even if it's coloring, sit back, relax, put on some music, color. I want you to feel like you can do anything. Like I said, when I was younger, I didn't really understand self-care, and I would get more stressed than you can possibly imagine. And sometimes I would stress over things that are just I'm coughing and laughing. Sometimes I would stress over things that are so stupid, so trivial, or I would stress out over situations that I put myself in, and it wasn't until I really started learning about self-care and educating myself that I was able to learn how to step back, learn how to go, okay, just give me a minute, I need to kind of recharge. Sometimes even now I'll forget to do it, and it's really important. It affects, I can't speak for everyone, but it affects my parenting.
self-care or lack of affects parenting, my parenting, excuse me. If I am constantly stressed, if I am always worried or in a heightened state of anger or whatever, and there's no break from that, there's no reprieve from the stress, there's no stress relievers, you risk snapping at your kids or splitting. I have snapped at my children before because of the stupidest things, if their shoes are not fully on the shoe rack or the little mat that we have. If I'm incredibly stressed out, I'm gonna be like, dude, what the heck, I'm not gonna swear, but I'm gonna get upset. When it's really nothing to be upset about. I remember years ago, I would never do this now, especially because I'm on a diet, but I remember years ago, I was having a particularly rough week at work. And mentally at home, I was just ready to check out. And I remember it was a Friday, and my family, including my wife at the time, my kids weren't born yet, and they all went away for the weekend, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to have the house to myself. I didn't really have any friends to have over for a party. So I just didn't have a party. My plan was to spend the whole weekend. It was like a 4-day weekend or 3-day weekend. My plan was to spend the whole time doing absolutely nothing. I was gonna play video games, maybe order some food, sleep some more, shower, sleep, just kind of waste the weekend away. I had no responsibilities, so why not, right? And one time, on that Friday, before everyone had left after an incredibly rough week, I had probably the worst day at my job that I'd ever had. Now, I hadn't been fired, I didn't quit, but it was a day that I couldn't forget. When I came home from my job, I tried to separate, my job and home, and this time I just couldn't. I let it bother me, and I couldn't even hide it. I was so upset, and I said, I need to do something about this, because I refuse to be pissed off and upset all weekend because of this stupid stuff that happened. So I ordered a large meat lovers pizza. I think it was. No, it was pepperoni, bacon, and some hot peppers. And I ordered jalapeno poppers and fries, and I ordered all this shit. And my intention was to eat it all. My intention was, fuck the world. I'm going to eat the shit out of an entire pizza, jalapeno poppers, fries, whatever, right? So everyone had left, and I did. And I didn't know the term self-care yet. I didn't know that what I was doing was as important as it was. I just figured I had a rough week. I had a horrible day. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. So I order all this stuff, and it arrives, and it's like 8 jalapeno poppers. I eat them immediately, and I eat probably all but one slice of the pizza, I think. I remember I couldn't finish it. I did try. And I maybe had a handful of the fries. And I was so full. My stomach hurt. I was so full. I had just eaten more food than any human should in one sitting. And I didn't care that I had just spent over $30 on food and eaten it and almost eaten the whole thing in one sitting. I didn't care that it was horrible for me. I didn't care. I remember after eating it all, I felt tired. I felt so good, so happy, relieved, I'm not one to eat my problems. Like when I get depressed, I actually don't eat. But for some reason, just that one time, I pigged out more than I ever have up until that point, and ever, since that time. And I've admittedly, I've eaten about probably half a pizza, but, like I said, I've been on this diet for a few months now, and my stomach definitely shrunk. I can't eat nearly as much as I used to. 2 slices is a struggle for me on the rare occasion I get to have pizza. And I found out recently that I can't have fast food anymore, like McDonald's, any of that. I got my kids some takeout meals. I was having a busy day. I was doing laundry, doing my next errands, and I got them some takeout, like a McDonald's kids meals, and I bought a chicken sandwich. And usually, if you get food poisoning, you kind of feel it a bit later. But it was like after eating it, I immediately felt incredibly nauseous, and my stomach was churning, and I took that as a sign that, even on a cheat day, to avoid fast food. And so I learned my lesson there. Self-care some methods might seem weird to others, but if it works for you, it works for you. I am a huge fan of what's known as suspensions. And it's in the body modification / tattoo world. Suspensions, if you don't know, is when you suspend yourself from hooks that go in your skin. So some men and women do it in their backs, their bare skin. They'll put hooks or whatever through their back, and they'll swing around from the weight of their skin pulling their body weight. There's no harnesses. There's no safety precautions other than those hooks or whatever you use literally pierced through your back. Some people who do suspensions do like their upper chest. They do their chest, they do their knees, some do their ribs, like their sides, you know what I mean? You can suspend from anywhere, apparently. And I have talked to one person that does it personally, and not only just to me, but in interviews and stuff, they've said that it's euphoric. It's so incredibly relaxing, so fun, and they do see it as a form of self-care. Some people make a career out of it, and even the people that make careers out of it, while they have their moments, they enjoy every second of it. I mean, at least from the one person I talked to. I'm not, everyone's different. This person does not speak for all people who do it. But the person, I saw 2 people do it a couple years ago. I saw one person do it from her knees, and then another person did it from her ribs. Well, no, she did it from her knees first and then her ribs. and then another person did it straight from their back. And, you know, to the normal person, you might go, oh, God, that's horrible. How is that relaxing? That seems so incredibly painful. And it probably is, but at the same time, we shouldn't judge, you know what I mean? Self-care might, like I said, be soaking in the tub, taking an extra long shower, or, if you have some free time, it might be going out, getting a bucket of wings, you know, playing a video game, go shopping, pick yourself out a new outfit, you know, get a haircut, you know, buy a new pair of shoes, you know, something, just, you know, get out there. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I don't just do the coffee and the video games. Occasionally, and the funny videos. But occasionally, I will, you know, if the kids aren't home, I'll just go for a walk. Just walk around the neighborhood. I don't have any sort of destination, but I just walk. And to me, that's relaxing. I wish I could do it at night, you know, but I don't have anyone here to watch the kids. I live in the city, too, and so if I'm ever able to, my ideal living situation would be out in the country, and I would love to be out in the country, away from light pollution, where you could have a couple chairs in the backyard or a deck and just look up at the stars. You know, when I originally lived with my mom and stepdad, and my kids were born, we lived in a different city. I hadn't moved out yet. I was still married. After I worked in an office, I worked on the phones, and everyone was trying to always talk over everyone else. Plus, you had the voices in your ear. Plus, you had your boss, which is fine. But it would get so incredibly loud. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'd have to recharge. Because if you come from an extremely loud environment, maybe you had a rough day, maybe it was just a little stressful. If you don't unwind, like, I mean, you're going to go crazy. You know, when your buddies say, hey, you want to grab a beer after work? I mean, if that's what you want to do, you know, one, I think is fine. Don't, you know, don't overdo it, you know, drink responsibly, of course. Anyway, beside the point. When I was in that situation, it was so loud. Our house was kind of out in the country at the time. And so it was right on a river. And I missed that house because I would go my self-care. When I got home, more often than not, the kids were in bed. So I was kind of free to do whatever for a little bit. So I would go outside. I'd start a fire in the fire pit. I'd just stare up at the stars. And I would smell that wood fire smoke. And wood fire smoke, you know, a little campfire. That is one of my favorite smells of all time. And I would just sit there. And I'd lose track of time. I'd get home probably 9:30. And I'd be out there for a good hour 15 minutes. Sometimes I'd spend the entire time leaning back in my chair, staring at the stars. Other times, I would be staring straight into the fire. Sometimes, I would even close my eyes just for a little bit. Very gentle breeze in my face, listening to to the water ripple, the fire crackling. Those were the days. That was ideal. Now, I loved video games, and I still do. Love coffee. Love a hot shower, like unbearably hot. I love it. But I can't have a fire pit where I am. I can't sit out and do what I used to do when I lived in the other house. So my self-care has to, mainly do with, like I said, the coffee, the video games, the walk, the funny videos. But I've been rambling. I've been rambling more than usual because typically I'll do a blog first, and then I'll do a podcast. But this time, I'm just doing a podcast. I haven't done a blog to this, so I don't usually have not a script, but like some guidelines at least. So I'm just kind of going from the top of my head. I'll end with this. I don't care what it is, as long as it's legal, as long as it's not disruptive in the sense that it's, taking money out of rent or any kind of bills or gas. If it's not taking food out of your kids' mouths, if you have all your responsibilities taken care of, do whatever makes you happy and don't feel guilty about it. And I know that's easier said than done because sometimes I feel guilty about it. Sometimes where I have the opportunity on a Monday to work maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, occasionally I need that self-care time, and I need it bad, especially when you're in my situation, especially now that, restaurants are closing, bars are closing, movies are closing, restaurants are essentially takeout only. If you are quarantined at home and you can't even leave the house, then look up different ways to self-care online. If you want to eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's, go for it, man. You want to eat a sleeve of Oreos. I mean, I don't like Oreos personally, but like if that's your thing, go for it. It's going to get tough. I think it's going to get real tough. Anyone who not only has mental illness, not only also has to raise children with disabilities, but now you're dealing with a lockdown. And where I am, we can still leave our house, but all the schools are shut. They're all shut down. And it's going to get real hard mentally for me and for anyone else in this situation. So, and at times it can be overwhelming. It can feel like, oh man, when is this going to end? And you just want to scream. When you are mentally about to hit your breaking point, when you are inhaling for a giant scream, before you let that scream out, before you absolutely lose your shit, I want you to take a deep breath in, breathe out, and I want you to think to yourself, well, I'm in a bad place. I'm in a bad position. How do I get myself out of this? How do I prevent myself from letting that scream go? How do I prevent myself from going batshit crazy? And if you spank your kids, how do you stop yourself from spanking your kids into oblivion? I couldn't, but I used to yell a lot, and occasionally now I have the temptation to yell, Sometimes I won't yell, but I'll like, all right, not necessarily yelling, but you kind of raise your voice a little bit. I want you to think, what can I do to prevent this scream from getting out? What would make me really happy right now? Not, oh, your kid's going to bed, but like, would eating an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's make you happy? Would playing some Call of Duty make you happy? Would watching cat videos or try not to laugh videos, which are always a great relief. If you haven't seen any of these try not to laugh videos, they're so funny. What would maybe make you giggle? What would maybe take the edge off? And whatever it is, if it's legal, I highly encourage you to do it. If it is legal, I want you to do whatever it is to prevent that scream from coming out, to prevent those tears from flowing. Sit back, relax, open a beer, open a soda pop, open a pint of ice cream, flip on your favorite horror movie or I love horror, that's my favorite genre, but, flip on your favorite genre of movie, maybe rent a new movie, Also, I wanted to address, excuse my cough. Going to the movies alone is not a bad thing and shouldn't be looked down upon as weird. If you're able to go to the movies, like after this whole coronavirus thing hopefully blows over and going out in public is like acceptable again, I want you to go to the movies by yourself if you want. And if you can't go to the movie theater, for whatever reason, rent a movie at home. Put your feet up. You got a comfy robe, put on a comfy robe, whatever makes you happy. And just do it. Just do it. I know I'm repeating myself a lot in this episode. I know it is so repetitive and it's so fucking annoying probably. But I cannot tell you the importance. I cannot stress enough the importance of self-care. I like to watch videos of guys doing incredibly inhuman-sized belches in public and seeing people kind of jump and get scared. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me giggle. So I think that right now the world needs self-care. The world really needs some self-care. I'm not talking about protests. I'm not talking about going to the beach and picking up some garbage. I'm talking about the world population in general needs to just take a deep breath in and breathe out and go, you know what? I've been through a lot. I've lived through the Y2K panic. I've lived through the avian flu or swine flu. I've lived through, 9/11. I've lived through, I've lived through so much. I deserve a break. This corona thing, this COVID-19, I'm going to be honest, it's hard not to panic. It is so hard not to go into a frenzy. When I went shopping, I had such a panicked mindset. My brain, a lot of times with BPD, your brain is in fight or flight mode constantly, all the time, every waking moment. A lot of sleeping moments for me. I get nightmares quite a bit, some very vivid ones. Or lucid. I can't, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so I go to the store, and I'm not panic buying. I'm not trying to hoard, get 50 things of toilet paper, 100 hand sanitizers, a million boxes of mac and cheese. No. I'm going for a good-sized shopping because I need to, and it's just horribly bad timing. I may have gotten an extra case of water than I normally do, my sparkling water, but whatever, man. Do it, But I go to the store, and I'm in such a panicked mode, and I'm rushing around, and I'm throwing everything in my cart. And that's not what I intended to do. But it's so easy to get sucked into that mindset. And, sometimes you just have to shut your phone off, shut off all electronics, stay offline, stay off social media, avoid the news, and just stay in your house and just breathe. You know, if you gotta leave the house, you gotta leave the house, but just breathe. Breathe and remember to take care of yourself. I'm gonna stop repeating myself now. I love you all. I hope you know that. I hope you know you can email me anytime. I think everything will be okay because, you know, it always is. And our minds make us think that it won't be. When my wife, now ex-wife, left for the second time, she abandoned us twice, but when she left for the second time, I remember sitting in therapy, and I remember just going, what's the fucking point? What is the fucking point? And I was in a place where I never thought it would get better. I was in a place where I thought, this is how I'm going to feel forever. And if this is how I'm going to feel forever, fuck it. I'm out. And I know it's hard to say because I'm in a place now where no matter how bad I feel, I don't think I'll ever have suicidal thoughts again as long as my kids are alive. When I was living with my mom after my divorce, when I was going to therapy, when I got diagnosed with my illnesses, it was hard to see how it could ever get better. You know, it was hard to see that there was ever going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. But here I am, 2 years later, and I am in such a happy place. That was through self-care. That was through friends, family. My siblings were so incredibly supportive, even though I've never really been much of a big brother. I maybe haven't been as supportive of them as they have of me, and like when I went to New York, I was with my grandmother and my brother, and my brother spent a good amount of time making sure I was okay. And it should be, for the longest time, and even now as I'm talking, I'm switching, you know, for the longest time I believed that the roles were that the older sibling was supposed to take care of the younger siblings, and that's it. And I've realized that, you know, everybody's looking out for everyone, regardless of age. Don't just respect your elders. You know, I respect whoever respects me, regardless of age. I don't care if you're 10 or 100. I don't care. But I bring this up because not only is self-care important, but if you're feeling like you're in a very dark, very lost, hopeless place, know that I got through it, and I'm here to help you get through it. And it is possible. It's going to seem fucking damn near impossible. But you're going to do it. And you're going to be so glad that you did. It's not easy. So, I don't know. I guess I'll end it here. I didn't do a blog to accompany this one. I don't think I'm going to do daily blogs. I think I'll do daily podcasts, but not daily blogs. I find podcasting and doing this so much more relaxing. And that, you know, that's kind of self-care, you know. Don't stress to do a blog if you don't want to, you know. Do it as often as you can, but don't force yourself to do it. One of the reasons I stopped going to therapy, and maybe it was a bad idea, but one of the reasons I stopped going to therapy was because it started to feel like a chore. And it just kind of sucked after a while. I didn't want to be there, you know. So, I hope you all have a wonderful night. I know it's late. Always
always with love, the Borderline Dad.